This episode of the Operatory podcast is brought to you by HungryDino.com. In less than 3 minutes, you can find out what outdated policies, procedures, and technology you are using and how much it is costing you. Take the quick survey at HungryDino.com. Welcome to the Operatory, the podcast about burying the dinosaurs in dentistry and moving past outdated procedures and technology to find a better way. With me, making me laugh more than even usual, David Pryor. Thank you, sir.
Hey there, Bryan. How's it going?
Great. Thank you so much for providing the patient perspective that is so not just always needed, but particularly needed on this podcast today, which I am super, super pumped to talk with you about.
All right, let's hear it.
So today, I think this is like the back when we were growing up in the 80s, would be like a very special blossom. Sometimes we come up with topics like we had Brad Eli on talking about how dentists cause TMD. And if you haven't listened to that podcast, please do. Holy man, amazing information. I think this will be one of those podcasts.
All right.
It is the only way you can grow your practice. The single way that people will want to come to you for your care.
Okay. This
And
is huge. I'm braced.
And I think that this is ultimately, fundamentally, what we should be discussing with our teams, with our business partners. What our end goal is to exceed people's expectations. Sure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what does that mean? Ultimately, if we dive down into that, which is what I want to do a little bit, we can do, it's only a 15-minute podcast, but how do we exceed expectations, right? And so we have to break that down. So let me ask you, Dave, providing the valuable patient perspective, when you're thinking of dentists, oh my gosh, he's like taking on this aura of
Zen
guru, yes,
and peace and ready to answer your question.
Because when I think of you, I think of like Zen, Buddhism.
Right.
That's what I think of, Dave.
Oh.
So in your
Here, let me have another sip of my Mountain Dew.
Yeah, as you get your chakras realigned, as you get your let me ask you, sir, after you have processed and on the other side of that karmic experience,
Yes.
when you think of a dental practice, what are people's expectations? Like, that's where we have to start. We can't exceed things. We can't exceed expectations if we don't know what people are expecting. So what do you expect in a dental office? And be the blank slate that you are, right? We've talked about that. You're the magic ingredient. You're the Mountain Dew drinker.
Yes.
You're also, my friend, a blank slate. So take that about, 0.0002 seconds that it takes to flush the information out of your brain.
Okay. Flushed. Done.
Flushed. Okay. If you don't know anything about dentistry,
Yep.
what is your expectations of a dental practice?
Do you want a list?
Absolutely,
All
man.
right. First thing, timeliness.
Timeliness.
Yep. So when I get there, I don't want to be sitting in the waiting area for a ton of time. Number two, I want happy staff. I want to have a pleasant experience at the reception area. I want a happy experience when I'm at the hygiene area, when I'm talking to the doctor. All of it, I just want everybody to be positive, good, happy experience. Obviously, no pain. And then I want efficient dental care. So I don't want to be sitting in the chair while waiting for a ton of stuff to happen and being idle for a ton of time. I want to get in the chair. I want to get out of the chair. I want everybody to be happy. And, I've talked about it before, but my last filling at the practice was door to door. I'm pretty sure it was 20 minutes. From the time I walked in the door till the time I walked out the door, I had a filling in 20 minutes, and I thought that was amazing. And I didn't feel rushed. I didn't feel like the doctor was trying to push me out the door. I felt, and you weren't the one that gave me the filling. And so it would
have been 15 minutes if it was me.
Oh, good Lord. But I would say that would be a good experience going to the dental practice for me.
Okay, so I'm going to recap the list here.
Okay.
And then let's because this is your we didn't like always. You are the blank slate. We don't talk about this ahead of time.
No.
So this is just what you say when I go to a dental office. This as a patient is what I'm looking for.
Correct.
I'm looking for timeliness.
Yep.
Is that different than efficiency? No, you're right,
Yeah.
because we run on time. You're right. So timeliness, a positive environment with a happy team.
Yep.
No pain.
All right.
Efficient dental care.
Yep.
And that was it. So
Yeah.
you have a list of 4.
Yeah.
So, which is great because it's not, we're not talking about 20 things to focus on here. We're talking 4.
Yeah.
I would add to that probably because it's so expected. I would say like cleanliness or order. Like if you went into an office, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it if it looks like a dump, we won't have to get to the other 4 things because I'll walk right back out the door.
Okay. But I'm trying to think if I don't know anything about dentistry, like I go do, I don't know, what's something I don't know anything about, like let's say it's construction. So I hire a contractor, which as you know, there's nobody less qualified to hire a contractor. If you look at my history,
I'm painfully aware.
You've been in my house as it's leaking. So I am the worst. So
not leaking, raining in your
raining.
house.
Thank you. I would really say water falling, but
Waterfall.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's so, but 8 years later, my house is almost finished.
It's
right?
very close.
Yeah. So
happy for you.
thanks. Yeah. Happy. That's not the term I would use. But anyway, so we've got cleanliness, we've got timeliness, a positive environment with a happy team, no pain, efficient dental care. And what I really want to highlight here is that this is the piece that people are coming in with their expectations. And I agree I think your experience here is not unique. I think your perspective is the patient perspective. And I want to highlight a couple things here. One is, do dental offices typically run on time? Do they have happy teams? Do they really focus on not having pain? Do they look at efficient dental care? And are they looking at keeping things tidy and clean? And versus like how many calories are they burning on those things versus quality of care, which didn't come up at all. If I post a picture of a veneer that I did, a single tooth veneer online, everybody will fight about it, right? They'll say, "Oh my gosh, your angulation is 2 degrees off. The shade is three shades off," or what? Like dentists will beat each other up over small, and I say small from the patient's perspective,
right.
Clinical outcomes. I don't think I've ever had a patient leave my office, and obviously quality of care is a huge, it's the piece that you have to have, but nobody really leaves there's not many dental practices who have are failing because of the quality of care. I mean, I see practices. There was a practice that was shut down near me because the quality was so bad, and all the patients who came to my office were like, "It's too bad it's shut down." I'm like, "What? Didn't you read the paper? How bad it was?" "Oh yeah, but they had a happy team.
Yeah.
They ran on time, right? It looked orderly, and they were efficient. I mean, it's easy to be efficient if your quality sucks, right? Which is funny, but I think part of the problem is that in dentistry there's this perception that being efficient is lower quality, and we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Like if you haven't listened to the 40-Minute Crown podcast, go back and listen to that because we talk about how efficiency does actually equal quality.
Right.
That's at least my perspective. But that's one piece that I wanted to get to on this podcast is that there's a rift between what dental teams and dentists view as what is expected for quality dentistry and the way patients perceive it.
Yeah.
Which is why I love doing this podcast with you, because having the patient perspective is so key. And this is one of those areas.
Yeah.
If you want to grow your practice, you have to exceed people's expectations.
Yeah.
Period. And the second part of that is the need to exceed people's expectations in today's marketplace. It's changing rapidly. I was talking with somebody about, if you look at what's happened, The smartphone is 10 years old. Think about that.
Yeah.
If you look at 1950 to 1960, how much change? How did the world really change? Yeah, it changed quite a bit. But like, think of like when I started practicing 20 years ago, when we were having lunch, we would all just sit there and talk. Nobody talks during lunch anymore. They're sucked into their mobile device, right? Yeah. And just think of how transformative the technologies have happened in the last 10 years and how that's changed our world. And one of the ways that's changed our world is that you can't meet people's expectations anymore. Meeting them, if you meet people's expectations, that's expected, and people are they're not going to talk about you. And then there's going to be another practice that is exceeding people's expectations. They're getting the positive reviews, they're being motivated, and they're attracting people. And that's really why I think in today's environment, you can't just be average. You have to be exceptional, because in today's marketplace, practices they're going in two directions, up or down. There's no flat.
Yeah. It is interesting, the observation that you had there, that I didn't even bring up like good dental care. Oh, by the way,
yeah,
I want good dental care.
Yeah, and I didn't coach you this,
right?
Right?
No, right. And so I was like, oh yeah,
because that's assumed.
Right, that's assumed. And so those other things are what's going to differentiate you. So you're right. That's a really good perspective.
Well, and I think a lot of times dentists, because we by nature are sort of engineer mindset, we're striving to do our best clinically.
Yeah.
And we view that like if we focus on a good clinical outcome, that's what leads to practice growth.
Right.
And that doesn't. I personally feel that there's almost zero correlation. Now, it can be different if you're doing like a boutique practice, if you want to be like a small practice that's full mouth rehabilitation and you're getting referrals from hospitals and things. If you're focusing on a specific type of procedure and you're known for that, but that's exceeding people's expectations too, because you're doing something exceptional. Right. So that's why we have to go back to the beginning. What are your patients expecting?
Yeah.
And that might be different. It might be different than what Dave said, because you may have a different style of practice. You might not be looking to attract Dave.
Well,
you might not want Dave as your patient. I do, but not everybody does.
As I take another sip of my Mountain Dew, I assure you, you want me as a patient.
Well,
I'm a revenue stream for you.
Well, that's true. But also, I mean, if you look at like Dr. Eli with the TMD that we talked about, his patient is very different than Lake Minnetonka Dental's patient.
Yeah, for sure.
He goes into practices and says, "Who don't you want to see?"
Yeah.
Right. And so his patient is very different. So a good team exercise would be to sit down and go, "Who's our ideal patient?
Yeah.
What do they expect?
Yeah.
How do we do more than that?" And it sounds simplistic, but those simple, boring things are what lead to success. So I was out at a retreat, a business retreat last week, and that's one of the things that just really I came upon, that I was, the only really way, how do you grow a practice? And it really comes down to the simple things like digital forms exceed people's expectations. Mm-hmm. Virtual reality, holy man. I mean, talk about exceeding people's expectations.
Yeah.
Right? It's those experiences that people come in, like you said, I went in and it was 20 minutes and it didn't seem rushed. Like you went on about it as much as you were talking about the other things, because what did that dentist do? They exceeded your expectations, right? So you're even talking on a podcast to other dentists, you're talking about it. Yeah. And that's what gets other people talking. It's not meeting it. It's not like, oh yeah, the place is fine. That doesn't work anymore. Right. The world is too mobile, too social to be average, to meet people's expectations. You really and you don't have to be, the thing is, you don't even have to be great at everything. You just have to realize what people are looking for, what your patient base is looking for, and exceed that.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
Yeah, totally. That's a really good topic.
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking more about that, Dave. And that's why I started off saying this is a very special episode of The Operatory. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
I also want to remind you to rate and review us wherever you're listening to this podcast. And if you have suggestions or comments, please visit theoperatory.com and drop us a line. Again, I'm Dr. Bryan Laskin, host of The Operatory. Thanks for listening. I look forward to speaking with you next week.